recording. Yes, Mona.
So we have tried it on Zoom with kids, but
Hmm.
we didn't do it this way. It was like the first time mirroring was done was like when my son was in LSW in grade one. So one of the teachers, Eliza, she did it with them. Then
Oh, nice.
on Saturdays 5 to 6 we take a Zoom. There's a Zoom gathering for the kids of Ananda online. So we tried it there, but we did it one to one, and exactly what you were
Hmm.
telling. Like they used to make faces which we really couldn't follow, and standing on one leg and all those, which other they used to do it like a competition. Okay, I'm going to do something that you will not be able to do, kind
Right.
of.
Well,
But this
that can
is a good
happen.
thing, so we can try
Yeah.
it this.
But one of
Thanks.
the nice features of the game is if you set it up right, if you're not able to tune in to what your partner can do, you lose because it's very easy to find you, to catch you. And so then when you start to like set up groups and make it a competition, even the hyper competitive kid who wants to do something really outlandish is actually forced to sort of with the restrain themselves a little bit and tune into their partner. Okay, what are they going to be able to do while still scratching that itch of excitement? Um, so I now ordinarily I would love to do something like that anyway, but it actually ties into something I want to look into a bit later with you all, with your help. I want to brainstorm something, and that ties into our subject for today. So basically, education for life for many, many years, as we know, has been mostly based in schools. It was started originally 50 years ago, 1972, as a school, famously in a chicken coop. And then over the years, it spread to different Ananda communities, and then it spread to different continents, and it spread far outside of Ananda, especially in Slovenia and other places. But it was still mostly based in schools. And so I wanted to share some of the different applications that have come up more recently in India, especially, but there's nothing particular about them that would only be able to happen here, while also giving some context as to why I think it is more happening like this in India, and some possible other avenues for the future for it. And then I'm going to need your help in brainstorming some things that I've been needing for some of these projects, and things that you probably all are doing all the time, but they're not collected. So the first thing I wanted to share a bit about is Nitai mentioned, which is the Education for Life Institute. And that is a new, in a sense. We've been building it for a year now, but it's more than a year, but it's a new sort of approach to online teacher training. And in broad strokes, the idea was, how can we bring education for life um, to more people? Essentially, if we have this thing that we know really works, it's time tested, it's very enjoyable to do, and lots of people, as Nitai was mentioning, would benefit from it. Not only the students, of course, the students, but also the teachers. There are many teachers out there who, probably got into teaching because it was going to be a creative, dynamic, profession where they're going to get to give back and work with children. And some of those things are still true, but of course, then also some systems make that a little bit harder to do. This is an extreme example, but there are schools in the United States, as many of you have probably heard, where teachers need to log what they're doing in their classroom every 5 minutes on a 5 minute basis. And when you need to write something down that often about what you're doing, it's a lot harder to do something fun and creative. And it's a lot harder to say halfway through class, when you see the energy going in one direction, oh, I want to follow that. The kids are excited about this thing. Let's go. I mean, not physically go even, but just like a topic that they want to get into. And so we were thinking, okay, how can we bring EFL to people like this, people who, granted, that structure is a little bit restrictive, but many teachers do have some flexibility in the classroom, but they haven't been given maybe just an opportunity to know about alternate approaches, different ways, more humanistic ways or holistic ways, and ways that really take the individual child at the heart of it, and really honor that, and then also just build class around that idea. And so we have, of course, the EFL teacher training, which is wonderful. It was designed, it's been shared by Nitai and Irene and myself and Cora and others for many years. Not myself for many years, but the training's been going for many years. But it requires a certain amount of buy-in. You have to sort of, in one way, you have to find it, in a sense. But of course, that could be fixed with advertising. But we're also thinking if there was a way that we could sort of meet people a little more closely. The courses happened only rarely and at a certain time of day, and they were all live. And we thought, what if we could bring some of this teaching and make it into a like an on-demand course, like you see, these master class and things of that nature. What if we brought EFL teacher training into that format, while ideally not losing that spark that comes through each teacher and each teacher trainer that makes EFL unique and makes it really a living thing. And so what came of that is the EFL Institute, which we're going to be creating a whole series of courses, starting a little bit before where our teacher training starts now. So a little bit more, a lower bar for entry sort of thing. So it's a shorter initial course. It's all online and pre-recorded, but then there are still live interactive elements so that we can still go through the content. And that was one of the other things we wanted to experiment with. What if we, gave the content and inspiration all at once and on their schedule and when it works for them, when they're the most present, and they get to put these things and start experimenting with them. And then when we meet live, we get to dedicate all of our time to workshopping and answering questions and kind of working through the material. And then one other major advantage, and this is one of the ones I'm most excited about, and we have one participant in this room so far, but I'm looking forward to many more, is this allows us to bring in way more teachers into teacher training, into that process, than we would ever be able to do ordinarily, because basically current teachers are almost off the table because you're already doing, so much. You have so much on your plate. Then the thought of also training teachers is not even really fair to even offer that idea. But you might have time to record a class one time, especially if it's during summer. And then that course, that class, that video, whatever you offer to the course gets to live on far beyond and get viewed many, many times. So in this way, we also get to expand the number of teachers, the kinds of teachers, the styles of teachers that get to participate in teacher training. And so everyone who comes through the Institute course will have seen, of course, Nitai and myself and Cora, but they'll see Kabir, and they'll see Nurani, and they'll see Usha, and they'll see Lilavati, hopefully. I haven't asked her yet, but hopefully, and many of our many experienced teachers, and probably at some point many of you. So this was also one of the great inspirations behind it. So that's going to premiere. It's already we've rolled out the first batch, the foundation course, and what we're calling level 1 for now, for lack of a better word. And that goes all the way through the book Education for Life. You get introduced to things like progressive development and the EFL approach to curriculum and entering the child's world, and a little bit of flow learning, so awakening enthusiasm. And eventually we'll go much farther than that. But the first batch that's gone through, it's a group of, I think, between 70 and 100 Italian teachers and parents. Really, really enjoyed it. Because one of the things we weren't sure about, or I wasn't sure about, speaking personally, was how pre-recorded would go. Would you be able to get the same level of inspiration from something that doesn't have that live dynamic element? And at least so far, they were ecstatic. I got to sit in on a couple of the live sessions, and though I could not understand their words, I did understand their tone, and they were very warm and enthusiastic. So that's the EFL Institute in its current form. We also hope down the line to be able to offer in-person facilities for training as we get bigger, but this is sort of a way for us to really push EFL out in not even really a new way, but it's just a bigger way. It's something that's a little bit easier to market, a little bit easier to reach people and say, oh, you can just, kind of take this first course and get to a sense for what EFL is right away. You can kind of just sign up and go. So that's something we're really excited about. So that's one aspect. And if you have questions along the way, please feel free to just jump in. Aaron.
I put it in the chat, but I'm just curious, is the website for the it's fine, you don't have to be watching the chat.
No,
is the website for the Institute or any place where we can get more information or share information about that with people?
Oh, how I wish there was. We are very close to finishing our website. It's been in design purgatory for some time, but it will eventually get to go through the gates of heaven. But so soon, in the near future, there will be. We've written all the copy, we've made pretty designs, we're just the last few stages have to get together, and that will be eventually, and when it is ready, we'll send it out to the EFL newsletter, but it will be efl.institute, which I thought was kind of cool. Institute as the domain. Okay, so another thing I wanted to share was this life skills club that we started. So in brainstorming how we can share EFL beyond our normal scope, one of the one of the particular challenges of India is it's such an academically competitive environment. And this is something that's really pretty deep in the ethos of the mindset, in part, well, for a number of reasons. There's actually probably 1,000 reasons, but there's less of a social safety net. So your children and what they earn bears maybe more than it would in the West, where we have Social Security, or in Europe, where there's kind of a safety net to catch you. And so that probably adds a little pressure. And then there's just also a cultural element that, and in fact, Indians are very capable, and they end up, when they're studious, go on to lead many of the world's biggest companies and dominate technology and all of these things. So there's a reality to it. But the challenge is that getting people, parents, who are surrounded by people, no matter how well-intentioned, they're constantly in environments where people are telling them, oh, your child has to be the class topper, the number one in the class. You have to, make sure that they're getting tuitions, tutoring after school, so that they can do better in school and do better on the tests, and so on and so forth. So at the very elite level, children are basically studying all day, most every day. And again, we don't have to go too deep into whether that's the right approach or not. Obviously, generally the people in this room probably think it's not, but that notwithstanding, even really good, sincere parents who want something different for their children aren't always ready to take that leap. And sometimes the children themselves aren't ready. And so one of the things we're trying to do is to create this life skills club. That's the phrase I started using because class didn't feel quite right for it. And it originally started as an opportunity for students who were maybe considering going to the Education for Life online high school to sort of try out EFL online high school. And of course, almost every child in the world has now experienced online school. So they have that in their mind. And if they had a good experience, maybe they have a positive impression. but I feel like probably a lot of students don't have that great of an experience, or they liked it because they didn't have to engage, but they liked it for the wrong reasons. And so we want to give an experience of what would it be like to go to a different kind of online school, an online school that took all of the principles of EFL and then brought it online. And so we ran this course, Niyati and myself, ran this course once a week as a test with students in 7th and 8th grade. And basically just we kind of experimented with life skills. We would do, a few classes on concentration, and we do some experiments with willpower. We'd play some games, and basically all of the stuff that you would expect in a EFL school, but online. One of the examples, I think this might have been shared recently, so I'll share it in its short form, but it was a pretty fun example, at least for me. One student, we were working with willpower, and we did something called Willpower Mondays, where we would all give up something that we really liked on Mondays. And for a lot of us, it was sugar. For me, it was sugar, and it was pretty tough, actually. And one of our boys, an 8th grader, here in India by chance, was out playing, and a sudden rainstorm came, and he had given up sugar. And so him, and I think his mom was there, they ran into get shelter in a nearby shop. So they're in the shop, and he looks around and realizes it's not just any shop, it's a candy shop. And it's Monday, and here he's given up sugar. And he's like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? And he tells it really animated. He also is a very gregarious young man. So he told it very dramatically. What am I gonna do? There's so much sugar. Huh? And then the last straw, it almost plays like a movie. The shopkeeper saw that he was wet, and said, oh, here, have this for free, and hands him a piece of candy. And at this point, he says, I'm out of here. And he runs, he said, Mom, give me the keys, I'm going home. And he runs home in the rain so he doesn't have to be tempted by the sugary treat. So this is the kind of experiment, because we're, again, always with life skills and with everything, we're trying to give an experiential approach to it. And this was one of those experiences. And many other of the children had similar experiences, although a little less dramatic, but similar experiences, but fun. And so we were basically getting to do all of these experiments that were very fun about our own selves. And we'd play concentration games and all of these different things. And it was a grand time. And at the end of it, I think we only had 9 students in the group, but I think 3 or 4 of them applied to join the online high school, which actually I thought that was a bit more than I had thought, because it was a very small commitment. It was just once a week, for like just one school year. And then before I get into the last thought of it, one really cool thing also about it, I actually wanted to share an image, if I could, very informally. But this is, where is it? Keynote. These are a couple of slides from it. This was us all, I can't actually remember why we were doing this, but this was us all dabbing or making some kind of pose, but everyone chose to dab. And that was fun. But this is actually what I want to talk about, or this young woman is who I want to talk about. Her name is Hanifa, and she is a 13-year-old girl who lives in a village in Uganda. And she found out about the life skills course through the community center in her area. Now, not everybody has internet. So when you need internet, you go often to the community center. And so they kind of offer classes there and different kind of development things. And they found out about our course, and she got excited about it, and she signed up. And I mean, aside from everything else, she was an absolute angel. When we gave up something as an act of will, she gave up, everyone was giving up sugar or their iPad or their phone or this or that. And she very joyfully said, I'm going to give up milk. I love milk, and I'm going to give up milk. And it was very sweet. There was no sense of self in it, but I could feel a ripple go through a lot of the other children when they realized just how different her life circumstances were than their own. And I don't know how many of them were fully aware of this, but I was very aware of the fact that she was by far the most joyful, consistently joyful child in the class. And for me, the promise of online education, even in a world where now COVID is less and we're able to return in person, but the place where that really has still a very real value is for all of the children who would not ordinarily have access to this kind of education. And right now, that's a lot of the world. But even, I mean, I was just thinking, she would have to go borrow the iPad at the community center because there was only one in town in order to take our classes and use a hotspot in order to do it. And she would do it. And I think about the possible future implications of sharing something like this, of EFL. This to me seems like a very positive one and a very real one that could really actually stretch much farther, because internet is now becoming, even when it's difficult, it's now becoming much more ubiquitous, and the access to it is changing all sorts of things. Erin.
I'm curious from your perspective, or maybe from anyone in this group, their perspective, like how successful or how applicable this might be to other age groups. So you worked with, middle school. I get a lot of requests for doing something along these lines with younger kids. And I've always sort of, I don't want to say resisted, but kind of shied away from that because I couldn't see how well that would work with younger. But if anybody has experience or insights or intuition in this moment, I'd be curious.
So, like we haven't done life skills per se, but I've seen my son attend online school in LWS, and we take those workshops for children. And primarily it's, I think, about just sparking their own interest. Once that is sparked, it goes well. It's like there is one child in the community who comes regularly, and like his mother says, I don't know what happened when he started coming to classes, become very focused and everything. And in fact, he gave up on his tuitions because he was like, every Saturday I have to attend class, and he had, like, after school he had tuitions Monday to Saturday. And he said that every Saturday now I have to ask my tuition teacher a leave. So he said, okay, fine, I'll study on my own, no more tuition classes. So it works actually very good, but it's just like, I think we have to be very focused. That is one thing that I've discovered. And to keep the energy focused, so we have to put in a lot of fun elements like games and all, which will keep their focus. So if we ask the kids in the group, what do you want to do, if we have 3 things on the plate, like maybe a art thing, a yoga thing, and a game, all of them inevitably, without a doubt, are going to say games. If you throw story in, then maybe 1 or 2 may say story, but again it's the games. It actually works very well to develop balance, equilibrium, mirroring, all those kind of games and all. And just doing little prayer also in the beginning, just 30 seconds of quiet time. I mean, it just, if it is in them, it just comes out. And many kids, like, they enjoy that hour a lot.
Yeah, Gasper. Oh wait, are you on mute or can I? Yeah, you're on mute, Gasper.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. Maybe I'm not the only one, or maybe I am. But you said first high school. Could you please just when does high school start in India?
Right. And in fact, it's not exactly for India. I'm sort of using the American model when I say that even. So it's the sessions I did were classes 7 and 8, preparing
Yeah.
them to join the online high school, which just runs from classes 9 through 12. And
Including 9 or?
Including 9, 10, 11, 12.
So high school is 9 till 12.
Yeah, I train myself not to say it because they don't really use the term here either. It's secondary and primary, and I just let it
And you've
slip because I'm
basically
so comfortable.
And you've basically been running the test with 7th and 8th graders once a week, just as a test.
This was,
like
yeah,
low power Mondays.
Yeah, we would meet every Tuesday and we would just have our sessions, and then we'd set goals for ourselves. It was loosely based originally on the life skill charts, but then we just kind of ran with it. Like, oh, let's pick up peace for a couple weeks. Let's pick up, even-mindedness, those kinds of things. But I'd like to see it also develop into something more elaborate, where there are units maybe and guest teachers coming in and many more groups, but then the groups maybe sometimes have times to interact. This was just, we pulled everyone into one group here, but one of the areas I see for possible growth is like here in India, as I was saying, people are interested in their child having an EFL-like experience, but they might not be ready to put them in a school. And so this also potentially opens up, after school programs, Saturday programs, just like, so they get to just touch in, they get to do some stuff maybe around personal development, or for older children, rite of passage, sharing nature. I mean, it would be an interesting approach. And some of these could also technically be in person. It's sort of more of a direction of kind of auxiliary for parents and children who aren't ready for a full-on education. This can be a great way to get some of the benefits of being in this environment without feeling like you have to jump too far, like, overextend yourself with a feeling of risk. So this actually, we're thinking, yeah.
And the intention is to, because I'm looking online, there's one in Pune, but that seems like an online school. So is the intention to have an online school or on-site school?
This actually, so this is the original intention.
Where's your
was
focus?
The original intention was to give specifically experience for the online high school. What we're now tuning into is that is still a track, but that there's also this other potential for just offering EFL inspired activities after school or outside of school, extracurricular EFL in a sense.
Okay, cool.
And just to circle back, the school in Pune is now in-person, online hybrid. But they have a school building, and they have 10, I believe, in-person students coming up this year, starting now, actually, I think, with a few more online. But no, that's a very good question, because it seems when we're trying to tune into is this whole group of people who could be served by EFL that aren't ready, that aren't able to take that leap, because especially in India, it feels like there's just so much at risk to try a system that feels like maybe it's not academically rigorous enough, which of course it is, and it's not as stringent or test focused enough, which, well, of course it isn't. So that's sort of where it's kind of taking some interesting turns, and we're hoping to develop it more this next coming year, and offer more of these groups and bring in other teachers, because it's also then an opportunity for other teachers to get some experience. If they're thinking about maybe wanting to become a teacher, but they aren't sure, it also gives them an opportunity that's low risk and low commitment to be able to just try and experiment and have fun. Okay. I want to just briefly go through a couple more things, and then I want to do something with you all. So just because Nita mentioned it, we are also working with an orphanage in Mumbai. And this has been a very organic situation, and I can't even really give a good definition yet for what it is. I just met with one of the other key figures, and we were laughing because we're still both trying to figure out what's actually being asked of us. But basically, nothing's on accident. Nothing happens on accident, I don't believe. But with this connection with this orphanage just kind of happened very organically it was an Ananda kind of community. where I live and this orphanage. And whenever we visited there just to go visit and then to go help, and we did like a save a day there where we cleaned some things with them and had some fun. We've had them over to our place, and we've sang songs and done little things. And it just seems like there must be a reason that we find ourselves intertwined with them. So we're right now in the process of starting a school, essentially, for the children at this orphanage. We have a few volunteers, EFL Teacher volunteers in the community that are starting to go over regularly and help supporting with their academics and whatever else, and just sort of being there with them and having fun with them and getting to know them, with the idea that soon we're thinking to get our own space and actually start having groups of children in the similar age group, kind of classes, come over and do actually something sort of similar to what we're describing. So they'll go to school in the morning, but then in the afternoon, they'll be with us, and we'll do some support for what they're learning in class, but we'll also do some life skills and some singing, and just really focusing on giving them an uplifting experience of education. Not at all to disparage the schools they're going to, but they do go to, fairly simple schools that are way underfunded and everything else you can imagine outside of the cities in India. And we're thinking that we'll start by offering sort of this supplement, and then in the coming years, really turn it into a full school where we're taking charge of class by class their education. And I actually wanted to share, if possible, ever so briefly, just some pictures, because pictures are fun and they tell more sometimes than the words. And again, I'm sorry I'm doing it inelegantly, but one of the amazing things about these kids is just how light they are in the progressive development sense, and also just in every sense. They're just so joyful, and like more naturally joyful than most groups of children that I just sort of meet. And these are some of the games and activities, and this is some of the young ones. And basically we're just sort of, this is us playing, we play football with them a lot. They love to play football. But this is, yeah, one of the things that we're thinking of as another possible way EFL can also serve. It fulfills two beautiful purposes, or many beautiful purposes. One is we're giving to children who might not have an opportunity for this kind of education otherwise, or you can almost say guaranteed would not. And then the other advantage is it gets to be this dynamic place where more people who are interested in learning to become EFL teachers can come, intern for a while, be in the classroom with a teacher, really get to experience it, just as they might at another EFL school somewhere else. So these are kind of twin blessings of this project, in addition to many others. But that's sort of new, and again, that's why I'm kind of saying everything with a caveat, a little asterisk, which is it's still developing. The inspiration is still kind of coming, and we're still trying to tune into, what is really the right thing, because we also want to make sure whatever we offer is really stable and dynamic and beautiful. But everyone, whoever goes there, leaves feeling just completely joyful. It's something very special. So we're really excited about that new chapter. And then the last thing, which I won't talk much about, is this bringing into kind of the mainstream schools that Nitai was talking about. And right now, I'm just down the street from a CBSE school, for those of you who know the Indian system, which is the biggest kind of school that's this oversimplification, but the biggest type of school that you find in India. And with the idea that, and working with these teachers and helping them to enter the child's world and helping them to learn to meditate a little bit or find some kind of centering practice, and working on themselves, learning to develop themselves so that they can then use that magnetism to help develop and work with the children rather than just the top-down approach that sometimes happens, which is you should share because it's good, you should, you know, be a good friend because I said so, or whatever, you know, which can happen. I mean, I've witnessed it in many of the classes that I walked into. It's not, it's just that they don't know another way. And so offering some of the techniques and the approaches that have been developed by everyone in this room and many else before us, we're seeing them already, I mean, get very enthusiastic about it. I've actually been very encouraged with how enthusiastic the teachers have been so far and how much they're willing to try new things. And this is another one of the things. Sorry?
Is this Gurgaon?
It is Gurgaon. Yeah.
Okay.
We have a friend of ours runs sort of is at the very top of this organization that runs these 3 schools. So we've been given kind of a carte blanche, like a free pass that we wouldn't get ordinarily, in order to basically do it in total ad hoc, kind of like a very much a pilot program where we have a sense of what we're going to try, but we're also very aware that we might have to change it or adapt it based on the needs of the teachers and the needs of the specific culture and the people and everything else. But the potential here is that if we were able to create something that obviously wouldn't transmit everything that EFL has to offer, but if we could put something together that really gives teachers an experience of some of these things, of being able to relate to the child individually, of being able to understand their unique needs and where their generally directions of growth are, or at the very least honoring each child's strength and using that, helping them to use that strength in order to continue to grow, it could be taken really, really far here. If it can work in a CBSE school, that means it can work in like 70% of the schools, I mean, conceivably 70% of the schools in India. So we're talking, you know, more than potentially the reach could be very far if we're able to figure out a way to train others to be able to share this onward. So that's, again, also very much in the early stages, but it's another way where we're trying to see how can we take EFL, that's these beacons of light. I always think of the EFL schools around the world are these beacons of light. How can we share that with people who wouldn't ordinarily be ready or find it or be able to, maybe they're not even in the right geographic location? How can we help them to access it? So these are all kind of examples of those kinds of things. Are there any questions about any of those things or any thoughts? And at this point, anybody wants to share before we head into our final thing? Erin.
I was curious, so you're working with the teachers in these schools. Are you training them now, like before the school year starts? Could you?
We are training them during the school year,
During the school year, okay.
Yeah, partly because, well, mostly because we want to give them their vacation. And
Sure.
they don't get much vacation here. It's not like us, well, not that we get enough either. And I usually am just coming back to zero when the next school year starts, but they have even less. And so during that time, we can't find them, but we're at the beginning of the term. We're right after their longest vacation. So I think we're catching them at the moment when they have the most energy and enthusiasm.
And then are you meeting with them regularly, and then they're implementing things as you're going along?
Yeah, so one of the things I've been tuning into lately, or a number of us have been tuning into, and this is something that's probably going to be obvious for many of you, but just how much personal transformation dictates how someone will be as an EFL teacher. And so this first stage, yeah, we're meeting with teachers every day. We've broken them up into small groups. So any teacher meets with us once a week, and we were giving them those 3 tools: entering their world, working with life skill charts in this case, and meditation. And they're practicing it in the interim. And but we're asking them generally, of course, entering their world involves children, but everything we're giving them now either is for them or it puts them in a position with a child where they're not directing anything, where we're asking them to yeah, fully. I mean, they're welcome. Some of them are already experimenting with things. So one person had got their children to meditate in class, a group of third graders, and she took a picture and sent it to me. It was very sweet. But we're not asking them to yet. If they feel so inspired, they're welcome to. But to give them an opportunity to really feel the benefits themselves and to give themselves time and space to have the experience. I mean, some of the teachers were a little bit, what would you call it? Disappointed maybe that they weren't able to enter a child's world since Friday. And we were like, well, usually we give people at least a month to make this happen the first time. This isn't something that just happens. It takes practice, and we're building awareness. And also sometimes there's just not an opportunity and you don't want to force it. So it's actually better that you did it this way rather than saying, my homework is to enter the child's world. The teacher said I need to enter their world, so I'm going to go enter some child's world, which again will defeat the purpose. So yeah, we're trying to help them be patient with themselves, have fun with it, and yeah, so far they've got really great energy, and yeah, I feel like we're very lucky. I think it's a nice group of teachers, and of course the people.
So, a quick question, like what time do you catch the teachers during their free period?
No, we catch them after school. So we have the most beautiful room in the school, although it's getting close. They just did a major renovation, which is also really helpful for us. This school looked like a prison before, and now it's one of the more beautiful public style schools that I've ever seen. I mean, there's colors everywhere. There's beautiful animals painted on the thing and landscapes. There's little beanbag chairs next to little bookshelves where kids can sit and just like read a book. There's things hanging from the ceiling that have bells on them. I mean, it's gorgeous. But our room is even a step above. And so when they come, they are a little tired, and it's very hot here. For those of you in Fahrenheit land, it's over 100 usually, or it feels like 106, 107, 108. There's also a humidity, which is rare in Delhi, but the rains have come kind of. And so they came not enough to cool us down, but they came enough to make it humid as well as hot, which is just very thoughtful of the rain. But so there's a lot of that, but we have air conditioning in our room and we get it pre-cooled. So when they come in, there's like a whoo, and they just went through dispersal. So all the kids were screaming and happy and running around the halls. So they get to have a moment of peace. And then we always start with like an energizer and a meditation. And that all of them that have commented have reported how much more energetic they feel afterwards because, well, for the reasons we all know. But yeah, so we do catch them at the end of the day, but we're getting creative about making sure that they're happy about it. Sometimes you have to bribe on the physical plane and have a really cool room in the midst of Delhi summer. Okay, so we have 9-ish minutes, but I would like to do something, and I think we'll do it maybe in the form of a chat storm. And so one of the things that's come to me, that's an idea that's been coming up recently when I've been in these schools and meeting different people and teachers and scenarios is, and it's actually a situation that came up even today with the teachers, was talking about how children often come into class not at all prepared for learning, not at all prepared to be in class. Either they're too hot, or they're too agitated, or they're too excited, but for something else. They're excited for the sports period, but maybe not the English period. They're excited to go home, or they're tired and they just want to sleep. And I've been thinking a nice way to share and communicate education for life might be something that it's just a working title, but I've been thinking of calling it something like conscious transitions. Basically, how with just a few minutes, just like 5 minutes maximum, maybe even less, maybe like 2 minutes, what kinds of activities can we offer teachers either to energize a tired or unenthusiastic group, or to help calm and focus a group that's comes in from sports and they're jumping off the walls and they're falling out of their chair, or any other kind of thing that you've experienced that helps a child sort of prepare to be present in class, and ideally something that can be done in a relatively short period of time. We've probably all at some point had some trick, and it can be very simple. It can be extraordinarily simple. It can be, I have them run in place and see who can run the fastest. That's one that I have used, especially for late feeling, early will children, and also actually body children too, but then that might get them spun out. So the sky is the limit, but basically what I'd like to do is have all of us write down in the chat, do a chat storm. I'm going to put it into a Google document. And then I'm going to take credit for all of it when I share it with people. So thank you in advance. Anything that you can think of that would help, that you do that helps children transition into class when they come in with a different energy. And then, yeah, if you just want to, the way the chat storm works, for those of you who don't know or remember, although I feel like Zoom got me in trouble last time when I pressed example shift enter. So you'll just have to use commas to separate, or periods to separate, because if you try to make a new line, you'll send it in. And ideally, I want to give everyone the chance to think without seeing a bunch of stuff go up in the chat, and just write down. So for the next few minutes, we only have about 5 minutes, but if you're willing to just write down any ideas, anything that's worked for you, something you think might work, but you haven't tried yet, into the chat, and then we'll look at it all together. So we'll write for about 5 minutes or less. And if there are any questions, yes, Draupadi, please.
Hi, sorry. So I did only my level 1 course. So I haven't been teaching, so I don't have any experience.
Oh, that's okay. What do you do to help yourself when you need to get your energy back on track?
Okay.
I mean, if you ever are like agitated or flustered, and you're like, oh, now I need to sit back for work, or I need to learn something, or if you have a child, anything like that. And you can also be hypothetical. What might work?
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
I'm gonna just play a little soft music because I love it. Some have already sent, which is great. We'll take another minute maybe just to send. We can have a look. Okay, why don't we send whatever we have now? I don't have that many. And if you want to take a few moments to look through, I'm going to paste a link in the chat. And this will be a Google Doc where I'm going to collect these. And if you'd like to down the line later today or tomorrow, I'm going to put all of your suggestions into here since we are going to have to go back to the sharing inspiration session, even though I'd love to see more of this. But basically, this is the link. We'll also make it available in the newsletter that sort of shares a lot of the summaries of this thing. But and I'll clean it up and give each a bullet point. But is there any particular one that anyone would like to, that came to them or that they're seeing here that you'd like to highlight before we end our session as you go through?
I like that someone mentioned drinking water. I feel like that's a underrated, underrated how important that is to just get a drink of water. Like I would, you know, when they come in from recess or, you know, just going from one thing to the next, it makes a big difference.
Awesome. That's a very good point. That popped out to me too. Well, I think I am contractually obligated to return you back to the other session, but I really appreciate all of your help. I'm kidding. I will not take credit for your work. But you will, you know, what I want to do is create something a little bit collated and maybe put some of these things together if they would be harmonious with each other, and maybe even make little cards of them that I can hand to teachers, because, you know, this is a problem we all have, or a challenge we all have, and it's fun to find new ways to overcome and to channel that energy, and they may come up with their own ideas that they can add from your ideas. So with that, unless there's anything else, I want to thank you guys for being so wonderful and for playing with me and sharing your ideas and inspiration, and have a wonderful rest of the conference.
Thanks, everyone. Great ideas.
Yeah, these are great ones. So yeah, click on the link right now if you want to just save it right now so that you have it open, and then I'll be adding things to it, or you can wait till later.
Thanks.